This brings up the next part of authenticity, which is the authenticity of the situation. Again, the idea that what happens in classrooms is not exactly what happens outside of classrooms. And if you recognize that fact, there are some things that are very real in classrooms, and often students expect that. When I did my German class, I expected that I would have to write things down. I expected that I would be filling in gaps. I expected I would be speaking. I wish I had spoken more. But there are classroom things that we expect. And that's also different if you're in a very small class, or a one-to-one class, or a large class of 100 people. The authenticity of the situation means recognizing the situation you're in and reacting to that reality. I think classrooms are real places. I don't think that they're unreal places. What sometimes goes on can be more or less real or more or less useful. But they are real. There's a reality to that. That was the slide of the woman in the classroom for those watching on the internet. Finally, the last authenticity that's talked about comes from the more humanist approaches to education, and that's personal authenticity, the authenticity of the teacher. The closest definition is sort of being yourself, being true to yourself. This one I do find very interesting. When I watch novice teachers in the classroom, one of the first hurdles they have to get across, and it's hard to explain, is they're obviously not being themselves. They're wearing what they think of as a teacher mask. And that teacher mask only starts to drop with experience, I think, and if you're willing to let it drop. You can still be a teacher, but your idea of what a teacher should be or how they should talk, if it's not really you, if you can't be true to yourself, then students tend to be less motivated or not understand or not really, you don't get the rapport with the students. Carl Rogers, for example, says it nicely, what I am is good enough if would only be it openly. Rose Senior's book on the experience of language teaching, she did a large amount of research talking to language teachers about their frustrations, their hopes, their fears, their ideas about classroom teaching. I really like what one teacher said in her book. Why on earth should they pour their hearts out to you if you're not going to let them into a little bit of your life? So in modern communicative classrooms, or communicative classrooms where the tasks are about talking about yourself, sometimes we're asking quite a lot of the students to share. And if we're not willing to share ourselves a bit, then maybe it's a bit unfair. So to finish with, I'd like to share, I thought a lot about this, about what that quote, about what Carl Rogers and lots of other great humanist teachers and advocates have said about being yourself in class. And because I like making lists and I like tips and stuff, I've made a list of things that I do that I would tell a novice teacher to help you be more real. Obviously, it's going to be within each of us on how you are yourself. This is what I've done that's made me feel more comfortable in class. Okay, the obvious thing, learning the students' names quickly and starting to use them straight away. Okay, so that helps establish rapport, start getting more authentic, because I'm getting them to use my name as well. I don't like being called teacher or profe or so on, so I get them to use my name. If you are more comfortable yourself in being called teacher or miss or profe, that's what you set up straight away as well. I take time at the beginning of the course to find out more about my students, and they find out about me. So I will share some personal details, not lots, but some personal information with students, and so they see I'm a real person, not a teacher, fount of all knowledge kind of thing. This goes without saying nowadays, but I try to personalize the content of lessons, meeting their interests, and having a bit of flexibility so that we can discuss things, deal with things that they're interested in. Here's another more interesting one, very practical one. I've now started taking a digital photo of myself and the class at the beginning of the year. This creates a remarkable sense of unity afterwards, especially if I put it on the wall afterwards, or the next day, or whatever, or I blow it up. There was another book on group dynamics where, by Tim Murphy and Zoltan Dornier, where they suggested doing that and then testing the students. So they would have a test, could you name all the people in the photo, their classmates? That helps as well. I don't stop with that. I make a class newsletter with that photo as the cover thing, and say maybe some of the things we've covered, a little bit of a personal letter from me, a personal note from me, how I've enjoyed the class, where I think we could be going. I've asked them as well to submit quotes for the newsletter. And with the photography thing, sometimes I've taken photos of them doing activities. Or me, I get them to take a photo of me and then put that in the newsletter. Around 5 years ago, this would have been expensive, unwieldy, and very difficult to do. Now, with digital photography being what it is and quite accessible, and printers and so on, it's very easy to do. When the student is absent, I try to show concern about that, asking them next day, how are things, everything all right, and so on. If I've been absent for 2 or 3 classes, I'll explain the reasons for that or whatever, not just march right back into the syllabus and continue going through the program. When I can, I also take part in some of the activities, especially role plays, speaking activities, and so on. I don't just set the activity and then ensconce myself behind the desk. So coming out and joining in a bit. This is a big thing about being true to yourself. Admitting when you don't know the answer to a question and saying that I'll find out, or that I'll try to find out. That's something that takes a novice teacher a long time to do with confidence. Saying, you know what, I don't know. Now, I don't know, in my educational context, I'm working in Spain. Spanish people like making jokes in class, quite relaxed and stuff, so I do have time to make jokes with, not at, the students. And that also, it's good for rapport, but it's also kind of being authentic. But I like making jokes. I like telling jokes. And doing it with the students or doing things like that together is also fun. This was a real authentic presentation by the real authentic Lindsay Clandfield, wearing the same sweater.